Okay, we are live. 4/19/2025, an auspicious day, anniversary of Waco, the incineration, anniversary of the McVeigh bombing, Oklahoma City, anniversary of Maxwell Azrello outside the Trump trial, setting himself on fire to advertise his crappy manifesto, right next to a hot dog stand. Although CNN people were drooling over the hot dog stand, they thought, like, no, it's that man burning himself. And by the way, that was Zell gel. How do they do it? It's not CGI. It's called Zell gel. It's a naked burn gel. They use these on Game of Thrones. It's better than CGI, and it's just a gel you put on, and it's, it burns, and it looks realistic, but it doesn't, burn so fast that it actually harms you. But you can't scream because you have to hold your breath. So you'll notice that these fake burnings, like that one soldier that did it, and then Maxwell Azrello, they were completely silent. Even the guy who did it at the Ellipse in 2019, 33 years after the previous guy did it in the Ellipse. Both of them being 33 years old, of course. But, all that aside, they were obviously using some kind of naked burn gel. That last one, TMZ, was right there to record it. Beautiful sight. He's got a USA shirt. He's on fire in front of the obelisk, the Washington Monument. I'm like, this is foreshadowing something, and it did. And of course, there's more to it. But let's go ahead and get started. I sent out a newsletter with a list of the primary topics for the day. So let's start with that. And then we'll open up phones shortly. So I don't know if this means anything necessarily, but I also want to point out that Holy Week started on April 13th and ends on Sunday, 4/20, which might mean something. We did have a stabbing, like a ritual sacrifice, McClaff. We did have some shooter named Phoenix. Very interesting considering the timing. Also, Jim Caviezel. It's Jim Caviezel, but I spell it with a Q because he's huge with the Q people, and he's in that Mel Gibson movie, the Tim Ballard movie, Sound of Freedom, but he's in Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ. In fact, he was 33 when he played that role, and supposedly he died during Passion of the Christ. He was struck by lightning, a cross fell on him, he got whipped for real. Like, he actually did suffer for that film, if you believe the PR hype. But they're making a sequel, and that's coming out. It's in progress right now. Mel Gibson's behind it. I think it's called The Resurrection of the Christ. In fact, if you haven't heard about that Passion of the Christ lightning hoax, it's pretty well known now, but at the time, I think people used to just give these things a pass because we weren't in a dialogue with media. Media told us, but now we're like calling BS on stuff. I mean, the blowback against Kate Perry is really, I think, unprecedented, and it never would have been possible. And it's funny because it's all partisan. It's because the sexist alt-right types want to bash on a feminist rocket launch. And it's funny because they're calling it fake, not really on principle in terms of it looks fake, but just, I think, because it supports their side. We'll get into that. But Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ starred 33-year-old Jim Caviezel. He said he was perfect for the role because of his age. Here he is, all bloodied up. Now, here's what happened. They were filming the Sermon on the Mount, and he was struck by lightning in the final shot. It was their fifth take. I haven't seen the movie. Maybe it was bad. Maybe God was trying to do us a favor. But after the fifth take, he got struck, and it says here he died. And since then, he has had health issues, heart surgeries, open heart surgery. Like, they've resurrected him, luckily. In addition to the lightning strike, Caviezel suffered other injuries during filming. He was whipped twice with the scourge and has 14-inch scars. So I would like to see Jim Caviezel compare scars with Tucker Carlson, who was scarred by an alien in his bed. Now, he says it was a demon, but he also says that demons are aliens. So I think it's safe to say he was scratched up, roughed up by an alien. And it was neither of his dogs, and it wasn't his wife. It was definitely aliens. And he has scars to prove it, but I haven't seen those scars. So I want to see Tucker's scars and Caviezel's scars. By the way, we'll talk about Tucker Carlson. He was in an Illuminati dungeon with Conor McGregor, who's going to be president of Ireland. Okay, so he was hit by a cross that weighs 150 pounds, fell on him. It caused him to bite through his tongue and cheek. This was included in his nap. So in addition to being struck by lightning and killed, he got whipped so hard with the scourge that he's got scars, and then he bit through his tongue and cheek when the cross fell on him. Caviezel has spoken about these experiences, reflecting on the spiritual significance and the challenges he faced during the production. Despite this, he's expressed deep faith and profound impact that the film had on him. Right, if this was real, he would have sued Mel Gibson. And Mel Gibson has always been associated with conspiracy theorists. If you remember, he got drunk once and he ranted against Israel. So he's always kind of been there. He's been in that movie Conspiracy Theory. And he even is included in some predictive programming. A year before 9/11, the movie Patriot came out to make people patriotic. This guy's working on a rocking chair. He weighs it. He's like 9 pounds, 11 inches, perfect. And he's about to sit on it, and everybody looks expectantly, like they think it's going to collapse. The camera zooms in on 2 legs of this rocking chair, and then it collapses. Then his farmland gets invaded, and he has to go fight overseas, like his son does. And so it's this thing about the father and the son going to war. But, you know, it's right before 9/11, right on time. And let's not forget that if anybody can be credited with directing the assassination attempt on Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, it's Mel Gibson. It's Mel Gibson. If you haven't seen my predictive programming breakdown on it, the IPR deep dive, you have to look, because everything about the PR shots on that day, the fight, it was mirroring Braveheart. In fact, the New York Post even put an article out called Braveheart, and it was Trump on his return to Butler. These are not coincidences, and I've gone into nuance with it, because this is art direction. This is a artistic production. We're looking at a made for a fake news program. I mean, this is how they fake history. We talk about this all the time. So yeah, Jim Caviezel. Okay, next. Blue Origin flop. Yeah, so the Blue Origin flop is something we'll continue to talk about, and some pretty huge channels are calling it out as looking fake. And the thing is, a lot of them are calling out bad evidence. Like the dummy hand. Sorry, but the dummy hand is from a 2017 launch. That has been spread by disinformation agents. That is truther bait. It's been debunked. Anybody sharing that is questionable. All these big platforms are sharing the stuff that can discredit them immediately. Even the door. Yeah, it's a pressurized capsule. Logically, you would think that they wouldn't have opened it. It was likely a goof, but they're going to explain it away. So they're not really doing a thorough analysis of it. And all the people calling out the Blue Origin flop as phony and fake and just a PR stunt believe in Elon Musk. So you see the problem here. But we'll talk about that flop and who else has discussed it. Candace Owens going batty again. And I think this is not a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that Candace Owen is out there talking about, well, Satanism and NASA and fake moon landings, and at the same time dragging her whole track record of anti-Semitism, according to the media. So my point is, she's doing some real significant damage to anybody who's just covering unskeptically what we're seeing visually, what we're told to believe. And ultimately, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about critical thinking, not conspiracy theory. These are two different things. But she's out there throwing just really anything that sticks. She'll throw anything at the wall there. And it's really discrediting. So I think there's an agenda behind Candace Owens. And then we have Shape Trader. Jeranism is now an official curvert. Yeah, guess who is not calling the thing fake, of all people. I mean, who saw this coming? Guess who's not calling it fake? Let me find that clip here. So Jaronism is actively defending that launch and Blue Origin in general. And he even saw the curve, which is kind of unusual to me of a claim to make, even if you really believe in everything, because the altitude that they go isn't really high enough for them to have seen the curve. I mean, I find it questionable about, could they even see the curve from, let's say, the ISS, which is 285 miles up? But these ladies went on a 50-mile high joyride. They didn't even reach the Kármán line. So let me go ahead and bring up this clip here. Let's listen to Jaron having the overview effect vicariously. Jaronism sees the curve. And this is from his own channel. I just took a clip here. I was kind of curious. I was like, what is he going to do? How is he going to play this off? Is he going to completely go ball earth, and is he going to start suddenly believing the CGI? And I was a little surprised, because that is the path he is going. Take a listen.
Which I think this is like the flight before the last one or the one before that. I don't remember. 2 or 3 flights ago. These people are not all there watching a fake launch, as you might think. As Jake the asshole might think. People that want to call this fake and then slack off everyone else and be like, oh, if you call this real, you're deluded. No, you are deluded. You've lost your touch with reality. Okay. By the way, I heard Jake, you were with Rusted Soul a long time ago. That's pretty funny. Pretty funny. So here she is going up there, and then this is the. Oh, this is actually kind of cool when you hear the sound. Let's listen to this. Listen to this.
Standby separation. Standby separation.
This would scare the shit out of me.
Oh my God. Oh, there we go.
This would scare me. I mean, yeah, I'm sure. And I don't maintain this idea that they're not launching rockets. Like, rockets exist. That's not the question here. It's just what happens when they're above the Kármán line. That's where it gets to be questionable. But the idea that they would send them up on a joyride and let them float back down, that's not 100% far-fetched, although I find it highly unlikely that they would put all these high-profile celebrities, these important people in one capsule, because it just could have been a huge disaster. This could have been another Challenger. So I think it's more likely that they would have sent dummies up. I think that's conceivable. It's conceivable they faked the whole thing in the Vegas sphere and then just planted the capsule after the fact. I mean, none of this is relevant as far as I'm concerned. But here is Jaron seeing the curve.
Take your time, guys. Don't worry about it.
So they have like 4 minutes only. It's just a glorified ride. It's a carnival ride. Okay. But obviously it looks like you can see the curvature of the Earth now. Okay. But obviously it looks like you can see the curvature of the Earth now.
I had to slow it down because he tried to throw it out there really fast. Like, but you can see the curvature of the Earth. No, you can't. That is not even curvy looking. Honestly, it looks like a movie screen. And I think this is some kind of fertility, right? And I think these people are overacting. They're ecstatic when they reach space. I think it has some different, some meaning to it. When you look at the fact that NASA, the space agencies, are just the modern iteration of the ancient mystery schools. No different. This is all ironic and it's funny. You have this group of, it's a feminist rocket launch. That's how it was packaged. And so they're co-opting this symbol of male power, the male god, and it's being ripped on by the sexist right wing. Like, this is just comedy. But here's Jaron seeing the curve. Reverse history says it looks like you can get Jaron to say anything if you pay him enough money. Well, I thought so too, but somebody sent me a message, which I'll show you in a moment, in which they insinuate that maybe he has been compromised.
It's like you can see the curvature of the Earth now. It looks like you can see the curvature of the Earth now. Many people have pointed out before.
All right. And she's like moaning in the back, which is absurd. But the fact they don't have helmets is also absurd. We have not seen, as I said, we have not and we will not see the video of Kate Perry singing What a Wonderful World. She covered Louis Armstrong in space. Where is it? Put it on TikTok. That would be one way to salvage this mission. Give us something to listen to, a new track. It's profound. You're singing this in space. And no, we don't have it because they can't produce it, because they're not really free floating for several minutes, but these are all jump cuts. So all we have is Gayle King saying, yeah, she sang it, and Kate Perry saying, yeah, I sang it. Well, where's the damn video? People need to start asking, where's this interior footage? Where's the video of Kate Perry singing? Not when she's staring into the lens instead of looking at Gaia. So there we have it, Jaren, shape trader, and official Curvert. Now, I don't care if you're a believer in the shape of the Earth one way or the other. I mean, I'm not even sure. I'm not even an Earther. Like, I don't quite have enough information to be confident in stating that I have a complete model of the universe. I don't. Nor do you. Even if you believe in the official paradigm, we don't know what's at the edge. There's so many questions to be answered that I don't feel like I need to rush into something based on what I know to be limited information. So I don't even consider shape to be relevant. I'm very agnostic about it. Like I said, it's really about the model of the world we internalize. And is this an open or closed system? And I'm saying it's closed. They have put humanity's heads into a box. Our collective head is in a Truman Show. Our minds have been fed a steady flow of misinformation and history-bending fake news lies that they have put us into a fictional universe that they control. But nothing new here. Okay, so let's continue. Alien attack survivor Tucker Carlson and UFC champ Conor McGregor Masonic grip. We'll look at that. By the way, pop quiz. Conor McGregor has made the list of the 50 highest paid athletes of all time. So what is the rank of the UFC star? Again, Conor McGregor made the list of top 50 highest paid athletes. Anybody care to guess his rank? All right, we're joined by Clockwork 113, Austin 108, Ears Up, Penguinati Auto Hoaxer, Piano Andante, The Frugal Snowbird, I Interrupted Your Nap, Lord Laney. Well, you can take the programming while you're sleeping, but then it's not a deep program. You have to be awake for this. Reverse History says, happy Saturnday. Ted Striker 112, thanks for joining. Let's see what else. Ali Goering and Joe Dubs. He says, it's really obvious a few hundred hours of research, like literally. Yeah, it is obvious, isn't it? And Brock Till Payday has joined us. Rank 33, you're correct. McGregor is number 33 among 50. Not a big deal. I was just like thinking about it. I remember this character. I've seen him, his talking points. I've kind of followed the drama around some of these characters. And then I see him on Tucker Carlson in a Masonic lodge, which doesn't mean anything, but I mean, in and of itself. But generally speaking, conspiracy theorists have conflated the Masonic lodge with the powers that be and their secret society networks, whether it's just like low level or it's somehow considered to be part of that. And it's kind of, I think, kind of interesting that they would just go in there unabashedly, like not realizing the optics of it. I mean, this is part of the whole Q lore, the whole QAnon thing is that these different secret societies are part of this network of adrenochrome harvesting satanic rulers of darkness. And there you are hanging out in one of their clubhouses. Okay, let's continue here. Ian Miles Cheong, who is one of these major right-wing S posters, says Candace Owens wants you to believe that this great American hero is a liar. Yeah, she's getting ripped on by right. See, this is interesting. So the right-wing types have really clung on to the space program as a testament to the power of America, free enterprise, freedom, capitalism. But the space program itself leads to the same place as radical environmentalism. And anybody familiar with this debate between climate change and is it political, is it economic? They know like watermelon Marxism, the accusation that it's only green on the outside, but it's red on the inside. It's got this agenda. Well, I'm saying that the Mars program is red, the red star, red planet. It's all space communism, and that the environmentalist view of things, sustainability as an ideal, this stuff doesn't sell well to the capitalists. But they bought the space program. And Musk is a huge part of this. So they have essentially bought space communism under a different name. They've been convinced that the idea of freedom and progress somehow ends in this enclosed dome in a spacesuit living underground. I mean, it's a gulag. Okay, let's see. I got this email from moveon.org. Reminds me Earth Day's coming up. Dear MoveOn member, as Donald Trump continues to slash funding to fight the climate crisis, we must raise our voices. And I just politely let them know, dear MoveOn.org, Earth Day t-shirts are bad for Mother Earth. Just wore the same one you wore last year. If your Earth Day shirt isn't recycled, I don't care what you have to say about saving the planet. According to Laura Loomer, that's like a disclaimer anytime she says something. According to Laura Loomer, Islamic terrorists have murdered 56 Christians during Easter celebrations at a church in Nigeria. Isn't that just tradition? Like every Holy Week, it's like an absurd number of Christians got killed over there. It's like, just change religion already. But I don't think these are real necessarily. This is the same thing in 2019. We had the Burning Man thing. Nipsey Hussle was dead. Holy Week was lit in 2019. And right now, we have something similar to what we had back in 2019. There's some kind of atrocity going on. I'm not really sure all the details. She says Christians are the most persecuted people in the world. Stay strapped this Easter. So is she a Christian or a Jew? I don't know anything about Laura Loomer other than she's a world stage actress. It's like a reality TV show. It's grotesque. But she lied about being Jewish. I mean, how manipulative and cynical is that? There's evidence of it. Milo Yiannopoulos has a video of her where she wanted to burn a Quran, and because she's I guess you would call her a provocateur. And she's trying to pass herself off as Jewish. So she's practicing by drawing the star on a whiteboard. And Milo walks in and he starts recording it because he couldn't believe it. She's drawing a bunch of pentagrams, like satanic pentagrams. And he's like, no, that's not the kind of star. So I only bring her up because according to my read of the scripting, she's got to go. Just as Musk has become a target of the left as per the madness, as that movie has really laid out the script for everything that has followed, from Luigi to Musk to Trump to the radical leftists rising up and burning Cybertrucks. There is a character in that show, Lauren Jennings, who is not only a match for Laura Loomer, but in recent weeks, Laura Loomer has fulfilled the prophecy of Netflix. It's almost like that, where in recent weeks, Loomer has had threats by the NSA, and she has suggested that Jack Dorsey needs to go to prison for election interference. Lauren Jennings, in the madness, figures out this tech billionaire was involved in election interference, and he has her killed. So here you have her making the same claim as her, I guess you would say, her counterpart in fiction. And she walks right into that storyline, and now she claims she's getting violent, expletive-laden threats because of what she did to the NSA. So they're setting it up. Not to mention the media assault on her, the attacks on her sanity, making it seem like she's really like a danger to herself. So they've created this perception. Mars City is going to be called Terminus, by the way. Terminus. Elon Musk has suggested that they're going to name the first city on Mars Terminus, which comes out of Isaac Asimov's Foundation, which is very interesting. He put a copy of that in the black box in the Starman Tesla Roadster sent to space. But the concept of the foundation, like what happens if you start a new civilization? What do you leave behind? And that's what we're being given with the space program. We're being shown that the new way forward for humanity collectively as we become multiplanetary is not going to be American. There's not going to be a McDonald's on the moon. There's not going to be a Walmart on Mars. We're going up as commies. And this has been very clear for a long time. This has been the agenda since as long as they have been talking about the Mars program in science fiction with books like Stranger in a Strange Land. But even further back, go back to the book Red Star. Way before Apollo 11, Red Star, Russian rocket scientists, they were like spiritualizing space, panpsychism. They were the ones, it was some guy named Constantine who actually said that mankind's destiny is to become a multiplanetary species. Musk has been quoting them heavily. But around that time, there was this book called Red Star about the perfected society of communist bases on Mars and how they need to bring that back to Earth. Make Earth Mars. Okay, let's see. Truman B3000 says, Upchurch has just dropped a song called Massacre. This is where it's at. It says, Holy Week was lit. Quote of the decade, sir. Oh, yeah, that was a good one. I mean, I'm hoping that this week turns out to be similar. I mean, it's almost over, but tomorrow there's still time. And there's some interesting new developments, like the Golden Dome. This idea of protecting America with this Golden Dome. It's getting us ready, I think, for the space wars, for the space nukes and everything else. Penguinotti says they pervert and sexualize everything. Why would they resist perverting the obelisk? Well, it has always been a symbol representing the generative principle in nature, the active principle. So, male feminine duality is encoded into all the symbols. And so it's really no different, but it's not meant to be perverted so much as I don't know if that's the way that I would describe it. Although, I mean, pagan fertility rites, it sounds like that. I don't know what to make of it other than that's just one aspect of worshiping the forces of nature, life itself. And that's kind of what these cults seem to be about, Loosh worship. And they do seem to make a big deal about the cycle of death and rebirth and resurrection. And that's why that's one of their primary symbols, because the god Osiris, represents, eternal life, death, resurrection. Dwayne Abid says, that's why it's comical they push for wind turbines when they're horribly inefficient. Oh, I see. Penguinotti says, yes. The next time you're in a city center with a large flagpole, examine it carefully for wiring. These flags are made of conducive fibers and harvest kinetic ethereal energy. No, I've heard that these various pieces of architecture, flagpoles, that these are remnants of a previous civilization that knew how to harvest free energy. And this has been kind of a mainstay of the whole Tatarian thing, and this you'd call it Antiquitech. But if true, when is it going to be repeated by somebody? Or has something fundamentally changed to the environment to where these things no longer work? Like the idea that church steeples weren't really symbols of this fertility god, but were really just energy accumulators. I don't know. Sounds interesting, but I'm very doubtful. Cubstar says, Terminus is the Roman god of borders. Putin invaded Ukraine the day after the Terminus festival day. Interesting. Ted Stryker says, Terminus sounds welcoming. Well, didn't Musk say he wants to die on Mars? It's like, we're all going to die, so why not die on Mars? Which is a strange thing to say. Like, let's die millions of miles away from the people that you know and love out there where no one can save you. And it's like, no, I think not. Go die out in the wilderness. You got to die anyway. Might as well, feed the animals. Like, I don't know where he's coming from sometimes, but yes, he definitely wants to die on Mars. If I was a scriptwriter and I wanted to dampen the enthusiasm for space travel because they can't fake it good enough yet, I would set up a big starship and load it up with celebrities, like celebrities, politicians, actors, like another Titanic. And then I would have it go to Mars, and on the way it gets hit by an iceberg that is a comet. which are just ice. So if we had like a space Titanic disaster, they could delay the next expedition to Mars, the manned one, for decades. Meanwhile, they'll send robots up, and nobody's going to question the robots. Nobody thinks that the rovers on Mars are fake. No, it's just a camera on top of an ATV driving around, taking pictures of our future real estate. No, it's not that. And I mentioned this before. The director of Donnie Darko's father worked on the rover called the Viking. So in that family, you got space confabulation and 9/11 predictive programming and other psyop foreshadowing in Donnie Darko. Kind of interesting. And I think it makes perfect sense when you realize that behind the scenes, it's all the same. NASA has never been about taking you to deep space, to some future resort on a distant exoplanet. The purpose of NASA has always been about controlling the space and programming the space between your ears. Worldview warfare. Till says Terminus was a community in The Walking Dead that was a sanctuary for survivors, turned into a community of cannibals. Yeah, I could see a real Mars expedition devolving into cannibalism. Cannibalism on Mars. I mean, they would likely recycle you anyway in every way possible. There's this thing called astrocrete, where scientists say that they can mix your blood with the Martian regolith. So you take the Mars dust and you mix it with blood and you make bricks, some kind of concrete. So they're already talking about how to make it the ultimate in sustainability, where even your body fluids go into the construction of the materials. And I think this is also meant to tie into the very notion of blood and soil, where the initial founders are literally building the infrastructure of their blood. This is where it's at. TV says, Tim, you see the story about the former quarterback from Tennessee. He left the University of Tennessee. Check out his name. I'll take a look. Truth Hurt says they removed an obelisk here that was a monument to a Confederate war soldier. It's challenged in court for a year, but I think it will remain down. Well, if you go to your local cemeteries, all of the Masons get obelisks on their graves. And that's, again, a nod to Osiris, the god, the sun god, sun worship. And the term itself references Lord, Baal. Obelisk is the shaft of Baal. The Washington Monument is an obelisk first. The idea that it's some kind of way of commemorating this president, no, it has an occult meaning. And on the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11, they projected the Saturn V rocket onto it. And they did the entire Apollo mission projected on the Washington Monument. So this was an overlapping of the symbol of Saturn, Osiris, and the obelisk, and this modern space mission. And this is at the same place where every year they perform a ritual called Catharsis at the Mall, where in front of that big obelisk, they burn somebody. They do an effigy. They do a Maxwell Azrello. So now this brings that into context. Maxwell Azrello set himself on fire last year on this day, a Burning Man. Dave Koresh was incinerated at 33 on this day. And then the Oklahoma City bombing. But I'm thinking the burnt offerings, these immolations, the Burning Man, must have some Holy Week connotation in terms of their occult symbolism. And it's a repeated pattern. We talked about this in 2019 when that guy set himself on fire in the ellipse, because it happened 33 years prior. So we were looking at the overlapping of these time periods, and it just happened to be coincidentally the 33rd Burning Man Festival, 2019, in which a 33-year-old was found dead in Black Rock City, where they have it. So you've got Black Rock, 33, Burning Man. What is the common denominator here? What is this repeated theme? And you find that there are symbol clusters. So, for example, the number 33 has some references to, for example, the age that Christ dies, has some references to occult concepts that bind all these things, ultimately to this concept of death and resurrection. It all goes back to that. Truman V says, still not a single rover on the moon's surface, giving us a real-time view of Earth daily, yet they tell us they put one on Mars 33 million miles away. Yeah, you think that they would have made that a priority. See, oftentimes the illusion is revealed not by what they show you, but by what is conspicuously absent, by what should be there but isn't for some dumb reason. All right, let's see if we can get Elon Musk here on the screen.
The key to making life multiplanetary and being a true spacefaring civilization is full and rapid reusability, so that you don't have to get a new rocket every time you want to fly somewhere. We live on a planet where the gravity.
So he's talking about reusable rockets, which he did not invent. I mean, I saw reusable rockets in some old Godzilla movie from the 60s.
Earth's gravity is high, and we have a dense atmosphere. So if this was a video game, it would be set on extreme difficulty. So like it's very.
So you can get somebody else to play it for you and then take credit, because that's how he plays games. But he's talking about when Earth and Mars are close, and he's talking about building a city on Mars. And I think this is where he says terminus.
Every 2 years, but realistically more like every 3 or 4. So in order to build a city on Mars, let's say if you're aiming for a million, whatever's, I'm not sure what the right number is for being self-sustaining, but I think it's maybe on the order of 1 million people and maybe 10 million tons of cargo.
Yeah, no, that's one of the problems. You can't ship bricks to Mars, but you can donate blood and mix it with the dirt and make bricks out of it. But again, for the first generation or so, you're going to be underground because they have to terraform it first. You have to make Mars Earth first. Got to make the skies blue. And they have all kinds of interesting ideas. Look at this, almost 300,000 views. So The Real Donut is one of these anonymous channels on X, probably disinformation, probably government controlled. I don't trust any of these channels that are anonymous. You shouldn't either. Don't trust the source. Verify the information, because these are two different things. They want you to trust sources. Oh, trust the blue check. Like, do you remember when Mark Cuban wept openly when the peasants were allowed to buy blue checks? He was like, I don't know who to trust anymore. Oh, you've been outsourcing your perception so long that your critical thinking muscles have gone completely atrophy. You just can't parse the info without somebody spoon feeding it to you. Unbelievable. And at that time, I was like, well, you need to be your own source primarily. Don't just trust sources. So I don't trust these people, even though sometimes they bring out good information, but oftentimes they're conduit for total discrediting. And the fact that they have the big numbers and they're not mobilizing the critical thinkers to do something, to say something in a concerted way that moves the narrative in favor of, let's question news at a more fundamental level than just partisan bias. But anyway, here is Donut, who's like, this Kate Perry launch is being widely savaged. And here he just calls this an Illuminati fertility rite in space. And I don't think he's wrong.
Katy Perry underneath the Baphomet. When you flip this symbol around.
So are we reaching? Are we reaching when we're saying that it looks like a Baphomet? You know, who are you going to believe? Your lying eyes or what NASA tells you? I look at this and I'm like, okay, I think it is safe to say that NASA does represent the modern iteration of the mystery school system, the Egyptian mystery schools. And looking at it in this perspective, yeah, Baphomet is a central figure in all of this. I was part of a Order Templar Orientis offshoot, the Golden Dawn. It's a Hermetic group. The Abbey of Thelema was the actual group, and I got a pretty good idea of what they really believe. And they don't believe the Baphomet is like the devil, but they do think that it is a symbol of what they consider to be arcane perfection, the blending of the polarities. It's a icon that they venerate. It is central to this cult. And insofar as the space program is a fusion of Scientology and this OTO stuff, just think Jack Parsons, American counterpart to Aleister Crowley, L. Ron Hubbard's science fiction. Yeah, Baphomet would have a place at NASA behind closed doors. Absolutely. I would even go so far as to say that space travel could be considered a modern allegory for ascending into higher states of consciousness. Like, I do maintain that space is heaven for the atheists, on a very exoteric level, but there is an esoteric side to it. Oh, good call there. Truth Hurt says Donut has been stealing Chalk Body Outlines material. Yeah, that's what I mean. They're harvesting material and not crediting their sources. So these are the big channels who will be the loudest voices saying Seattle's going to get it on 6/11 leading up to it. And they're not going to mention Jurassic Liars. It always happens. I used to question these people like, how did you arrive at this conclusion that something's going to happen to Trump on this date? And they would just say, I read my Gematria calculator. It's like, no, you're harvesting intel from small channels and then you're ignoring them. You're acting just like the mainstream media. So I think it's very disingenuous, and it's typical of controlled opposition type actions. So again, I don't trust them, but sometimes the information is useful.
Found it is the Baphomet. The goat imagery is associated with fertility. The virgin uterus went into space.
Now, Virgin, that is something I haven't really gotten too deep into here much, but Virgin Airline definitely venerates the goddess. And if you watch the last Virgin launch, it's obscene. It is obscene. The way the two wings of the plane and everything moves and it goes through these motions, it's not hard to unpack it. But Virgin, Virgo, goddess, he even has this boat. I think it was called the Scarlet Woman. I got to know, or the Scarlet Lady. I got to check. But Richard Branson is also part of the same mystery school system. And the iconography is the same, different branding, but ultimately it's the same. And the public will joke at this stuff. Even they'll joke about the shape of the rocket. But meanwhile, they're missing the significance of it. And it's not just the rocket. It's a symbol of state power. It's a symbol of Big Brother. It's a symbol, when North Korea's dictator advertises his rockets, it's the same symbol. It's just a flex.
Space, Jeff Bezos' phallic went into space. The Space Force had all.
And by the way, so in the Lemic system, the cult that runs this place, if you ask me, it's the most modern iteration. They have this thing called the Gnostic Catholic Mass. But one of the things that Aleister Crowley focused on primarily was this theme of the goddess representing the night sky. And you often see images of Mary or Isis with stars on a blue robe. It represents the night sky. So the night sky is the womb of Isis, from which the sun god is born every day. So the rocket going into space is the same part of the myth where Isis and Osiris have, after he's dead, she plugs the obelisk on and they conceive the sun for the next day. I mean, this is their myth, and it's just being retold through NASA's lens, a little science fiction attached. And here you have Space Force, and if you flip it upside down, you get Baphomet. Again, I don't think these are coincidences.
All show the uterus, and when they are rocket off into space, they're floating in the womb.
Now, one of the first spacewalks, you see the astronaut with the tether, and I pointed out before, it looks like a baby with the umbilical cord. And it's all about the birth into the new age, the space age. Same symbolism as we saw in 2001 Space Odyssey. Okay, here you have Kate Perry with her butterfly.
While we see this Baphomet symbol trend worldwide, Lady Gaga doing the Baphomet, the #1 viral.
No, Lady Gaga just performed on SNL a song called Abracadabra. And I wasn't planning to get too esoteric about it, but this is what they're talking about. So the book that was channeled, that is the Bible of this cult, is called Book of the Law. And they refer to it in their cultic circles by a number, Book 418. And 418 is the numerical equivalent of the phrase, the great work. The great work is the same concept as the great reset. It's about resetting for the new age. And this new god construct was the young androgynous child Horus. But the number 418 is also the numerical equivalent of the word abracadabra, which is therefore designated as the word of the age. So it's like in terms of their cult, that specific word has very specific and important significance. It's about the power of the spoken word and controlling reality through spellcraft. But anyway, let's continue.
Viral meme doing the exact Baphomet hand gesture. Amazon, a Mason, with
Now, we've talked about Jeff Bezos quite a bit, Amazon, and the symbol of the person, the character Nimrod in biblical lore, the builder of the Tower of Babel, and how this correlates not just with Bezos, but with America in general, Babylon, the Space Needle in Seattle and its correlation to the One World Trade Tower, the obelisk symbol representing this theme of the One World System. It's all correlated. But Bezos, again, has a great deal of significance in the script, as much as Musk does, if not more.
the phallic for the prime, because the whole rocket program was created through sex magic. This goddess symbolism is prominent in the secret societies, going back to the Eleusinian mystery cults. We even see Ishtar.
Now, in the Eleusinian mystery cults, one of the most well-known ones is the story of the kidnapping of Persephone, taken into the underworld, which corresponds with the transition from summer into fall. And this was reenacted on the world stage with the kidnapping ritual of Gabby Petito. Total fake, didn't really happen the way it's reported. She's not dead, but that's besides the point. She was presented as Virgo, as this basically the spring maiden kidnapped by Hades. And then they find her body just days before the autumn equinox. Again, this is typical of the cult. So I don't disagree that this is 100% a ritual.
At the top of the symbolism, and Libra, there's the 33. How many people notice this? The 33 right there at the bottom. We even have the Libra scales wearing the blue dress. They're all wearing blue on the space mission because Libra is.
All right, let's continue. I mean, some of this is useful information. I'll get back to it later. I want to see if you caught that one episode of that TV show that had a similar launch. Now, this is good research. I have read this one on the left, Aleister Crowley and Enochian Magic. But there is a great deal of significance to these things. It has more to do with this ancient ritual and paganism and Holy Week than with science and feminism. That's all just the exoteric cover. Interesting clip. To get to the FSU shooter, his name was Phoenix, which kind of stands out to me, possibly significant. But one of the victims, or one of the, I wouldn't say victims, but somebody who was at that school where it happened was also a survivor of Parkland, if you can believe it.
I mean, I never thought it would happen to me for the first time.
The same girl who survived the 2018 Parkland school shooting alongside then student and DNC Vice Chair David Hogg survived yesterday's shooting in Florida. I wonder if she used a tiny book. Do you remember that story? One of the persons said that she would have. We got to go back to Parkland one of these days. That one was pretty bad. There was this one witness. There's a couple of them worth bringing up. One of them claims that they were in Holocaust class, which I didn't know that was a class, when the Nazi with the MAGA hat comes in and starts shooting with an AK-47, and she throws a copy of one of these books that they were studying. I think it was a Diary of Anne Frank, and it caught the bullet and saved her friend. So her friend saved her life by throwing a tiny book. She said a tiny book deflected the bullet. So anyway, Anne Frank's book saved this girl's life from the neo-Nazi shooter, and then the girl who threw the book and saved her life got shot and killed. And then we have the other one, who was clearly high, who said that she was leaving class along with the shooter during the evacuation. And she said, I remember joking to him, if anybody was going to shoot up the school, Nick, I thought it would have been you. But it's not you, because we can hear the shooter in the background. So she kind of gave him an alibi. Well, then she disappeared. She got interviewed once, and then she got suicided. So there's a story. Yeah, the FSU shooter's name was Phoenix. XG says Jeff Bezos' real name is Jeffrey Preston Jorgensen. Why the change? Interesting. I'll do another deep dive on this character if you want to see the Nimrod builder, the Tower of Babel overlap. It's fascinating. This is from the Liberation Project. Why people sympathize with Luigi Mangione and not private health insurance. We, the working class, are realizing that political struggle is not left versus right. It's rich versus poor. Again, before Luigi did the shooting, I just watched the madness, and I said, get ready for class warfare from armed Antifa against the billionaire who bought the election, obviously referencing Musk. I called this out before Vanity Fair reviewed the madness and made these connections. And I said class warfare just like Joker. And so far it's been, and I even see local flyers. No war but class war. And then we have this, which I think this event, this is the stabbing of the kid named Metcalf. I think this is fake for the purposes of stirring up resentment against the left. Carmelo Anthony's family has expanded their fundraiser to include safe location, basic living costs, transportation, counseling, and security. So again, the alleged murderer has been shown on social media to have been, making a lot of money. Now, I don't think he bought the mansion and car with Give, Send, Go money. I'm not sure if that's true. Some of the stuff might be misrepresented. But what is true is that he is getting paid for having stabbed the other person. And we don't have all the information. If you want to go by the rules, innocent until proven guilty, do we know he didn't have a reasonable thing? But the way that people are taking this is intriguing. For weeks now, I've been emphasizing the 1619 versus 1776 dialectic, corresponding to Donald Trump and Barack Obama. And I highlight the leave the world behind references to the 1619 project and what that year means in the bigger picture as evidence that Obama stands for that year as much as Trump stands for 1776. Well, here's a TikToker talking about how if you're a white person and you get close to him, you're going to get it like Austin Metcalf. But one of the things he says here that's interesting is he references the year 1619.
Are against Carmelo Anthony. Me as a black man in America, white people, I'm telling you and I'm telling you now, you ever even think to approach me, bully me, harass me, think you're going to be with your twin brother or twin whatever and do anything to me, I too will poke you as well. Straight to the heart.
Okay, so you got that. Now, the next part, though, is where he mentions...
And that's on self-defense. This is not the Jim Crow era. This ain't 400 years ago. This ain't 1619.
This ain't 1619. Yeah, I thought that was intriguing because I've been noticing that 1619 to the left is 1776's is a parallel to the 1776 and its meaning to the right. We're talking about a conflict of visions that has been intentionally engineered.
The Jim Crow era. This ain't 400 years ago. This ain't 1619.
All right, so there we go. This isn't 1619. I'm just pointing this out because if you want to know why it's so significant that Obama and Trump are constantly represented in the movies that foreshadow the head wound. And it's always this pair. It's always this dynamic, this dialectic. Well, this is why. Because they represent the polarities of the extremes of the political horseshoe. Angst G says, ooh, scary. Well, yeah, I don't think this is typical, but I think it's interesting that people feel comfortable voicing these things, these ideas, and how it all fits the programming. Metcalf's family has been swatted. Now, a couple of reasons why I think this is fake. Just the high-profile nature of it, the fact that we have all the details so soon. I mean, these are things where you have an open investigation. It's a very sensitive thing. You got minors involved, and they make it like a spectacle for everybody to look into and get polarized around. Yeah, I just think this is unrealistic, just on the face of it. Donut did a poll. Was the Kate Perry space stunt fake or a ritual? 24% said fake. 16% said ritual. 59% said fake and ritual. True. It's both. It's fake, it's a ritual, and it also has political utility. These psyops have multiple levels. It's political, it's psychological manipulation, and there's often the occult side of it. Salt says, give that septum piercing one good tug. I got your pokey. Yeah, that would be painful, I'm sure. Now here though, they're actually like lionizing this character. Here's Luigi killing somebody. I mean, I look at this as evidence that the political left is backed by the government, that their state worship is being rewarded and lauded. That's why this was a peaceful shooting. It was a peaceful protest of a unfair system. And they literally take this tack, and they have no problem scratching or burning Cybertrucks, and they want more of it. This is just typical, and it's intriguing to me because the right wing has a lot of these fringy characters, but they have to be more or less, I think, paid to say crazy things, like Candace Owens, for example. And here she is calling out Matt Walsh, and I've been looking at the comments. Candace Owens is likely being used to discredit anybody calling out media fakery. I mean, here we are talking about qualitative differences between reality and what appears to be a simulation. We're being a bit nuanced about the role of media and worldview formation, a bit philosophical. And then she comes out saying it's Satan and witches and demons and Israel. And she throws all this stuff together. And at the end of it, it alienates anybody who should be looking at what is an active, I won't say crime scene. Is NASA a crime scene? Are these fake school shootings crime scenes, or is it just fraud and progress, malfeasance? But she is making us all look baddie. Not us. Well, yeah, us. It's guilt by association, and I somewhat resent it.
And listen, when the guys did it, it was fake and gay. I'm sorry, Matt, and it's time for you to admit it. It was just as bad. You just weren't alive for it, okay? Homies were on the moon making phone calls before the time of cell phones, like, hey, what's up, Prez? It's me on the moon with the flag. No issues. First time we've ever flown this thing. Yeah, I don't know. We just got through the belt.
You know, I love how she has the cross back there. She and Russell Brand are just advertising their Christianity, their conversion every chance they get. In fact, I saw Russell Brand on some video talking about Satan, and he had this red light glowing on his face. He's very dramatic about it. All right, let's see if I want to listen to anything else from her. I just want to play this part where you can see that the way that she explains this whole thing, it is poisoning the well, as Plain Decoded said. But some of these things, you just read the room. If you're going to try to convince somebody, if that's your objective, that NASA is faking space, you're going to have to provide reasonable explanations. And some of this conjecture just can't sound reasonable unless you have a sufficient backdrop of context, which people don't. So I would never run to somebody leading with Jack Parsons, the Babylon working, and where Satanism and Hollywood merge. I'm like, that's kind of outside the scope of the conversation most people are willing to have. It's a bit tactless, and it seems like it's almost just shock value and clickbait. Like maybe she's trying to take up the space that David Icke used to take up.
Can you pull up this clip, Skylar? You know, just from a podcast, the Science History Institute Museum and Library. This is one of their podcasts, and you scroll down here, and you, again, are probably gonna have to make this bigger for my eyes, but at the top here, you know, Jack Parsons was a brilliant rocket scientist, but he lived a wild lifestyle with a devil may care attitude. He was pretty relaxed about safety and dabbled in drugs, occult practices.
You know what's interesting? He was in a group they called the Suicide Squad, which I think ties into Margot Robbie's role in a movie of the same name. So there's this overlap, and Margot Robbie being in Babylon and Barbie, a lot of connections here that we could delve into about her role and the archetype that she represents, which I maintain she represents as Barbie, as Babylon. She represents this new iteration of the goddess for this new age cult. And the new age goddess, they represent her as a red witch, the woman in red, Scarlet Woman. It's a recurring theme. When Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard were hanging out doing this ritual to invoke the spirit of the Antichrist, which sounds crazy. They were performing this ceremony with a movie star named Marjorie Cameron, specifically because they did a spell to summon a Scarlet Woman priestess, because they use these priestesses in these ceremonies, and that's their designated term, is they are the Scarlet Woman. It's like a high priestess. Well, later, this high priestess was in a movie by Kenneth Anger called Inauguration of the Pleasure Dome, about the new age and the rise of this new goddess. Kenneth Anger also did a movie called Invocation of My Demon Brother that had Mick Jagger in it. And he also worked with somebody from Led Zeppelin, and one of the Manson killers was in the movie with Mick Jagger. I mean, I have to do a mind map just so you can see the overlap between Satanism, the space program, and Hollywood and music. It's pretty intriguing because there was a point where everything kind of just gelled together. It became very obvious. All right. Rico Saw says, Candace Owens is, yeah, look, again, I don't believe that she believes anything she's saying. I think she's just a teleprompter reader. I really think it's that simple. And she sent her production company, I think, or her producer, went down to Antarctica with Jeranism and Witsit Spitsit. So, like, why is she still, how is she so embedded in this conspiracy area if she's not some kind of an op? Interesting. Kevin Mooring says Sam Tripoli was in a Michael Jackson video and a Britney Spears video. Really? So is Sam Tripoli, was he a singer, a dancer? I know he's a comedian, but what got him into a Britney Spears video or Michael Jackson? Okay, let's see here. Maggart says Led Zeppelin has been trending in the last few days. Yeah, I'll have to look into that, because I had looked at I was researching the Led Zeppelin Aleister Crowley connections, because the Aleister Crowley house at Boleskine near Loch Ness, where I think Jimmy Page had spent some time doing Crowley's magic, somebody burned it down recently. So I was kind of looking into that. That's right. Jimmy Page owns Aleister Crowley's castle, and they have put some hints in their albums. I think Do What Thou Wilt was put in one of the things, like an album cover. Sam Tripoli is rapper McSearch from the 80s group Third Base, says Penguinati Auto Hoaxer. You have to say, if true, they're exceedingly talented. Like, okay, you're going to play the role of this rapper, but then you're also going to do conspiracy duty, and you're going to do some stand-up comedy. All right, let's see here. Moving past her for a minute. This is interesting. Now, I don't think she's wrong, but I think she's probably not doing it right. You can arrive at the right conclusions for the wrong reasons, and it matters. There are people who will look at the news and say, oh, that's fake. But then if you pin them down, how do you know it's fake? Then you find that their claim of fakery is shallow. Every truther knows the mainstream news is fake. Every truther drinks the Kool-Aid from Alex Jonestown. You see how that works? So I like this clip, but I don't know if she knows or if she's just being cynical for clicks. But I don't know. Maybe she's onto something.
This is going to be an unpopular truth because of the extremely delusional and deceived world that we now live in. But the reality is, the truth is that none of what is going on outside, none of this gets better. Everything in our world is fake. Our food is fake. Our news is fake. Our politicians are fake. Our history is fake. Even our financial system is fake. And the people on our TV screens, on our phone screens are lying to us because everything is a scripted movie. And if you want to believe the absolute garbage that is being spoon-fed to us, then that is 100% your prerogative. But I would hope by now, 5 years into this very odd new world that we now live in, this very new and odd reality that we all live in, I would hope by now that the majority of us realize and recognize that there is something much more sinister and something much more spiritual going on behind the scenes. I am at a point where I literally do not believe a single thing that I see anymore. I do not believe anything that I see.
Now, let me add to this. Being a non-believer is actually taking the intellectual high ground. You have to willingly avoid critical thinking and take a leap of faith in bullshit if you want to go along with some of these major narratives. You have to play along. It's an alternate reality game. And to be a non-believer is to say, I have higher standards of evidence. And I think you should be proud as a non-believer. And traditionally, historically, religions have not treated non-believers very well. They want to throw rocks at you and burn you. And it's no different today with the mainstream religion, because we are non-believers. And that's a defensible posture. You shouldn't have to believe. You should know what you know, and then know why you don't believe what all the lemmings are choosing to believe.
See anymore, because after the last 5 years, a little bit more, I realize that there are narratives being pushed. There are distractions being pushed, and we are watching a movie so that the people in control can move the chess pieces. This is going to be.
She nailed it, though. I think she's nailed it. We are watching a movie. It sounds like hyperbole, like exaggeration, but it's really not. The extent to which our news media has been turned into a reality TV show representing a very specific and highly curated worldview is the biggest conspiracy out there. It's the only conspiracy. Forget Bigfoot, forget anti-vax, forget aliens and deep states and adrenochrome. The only real conspiracy is the total and monolithic hijacking of media writ large, all of it. And that's not an exaggeration. If it's mainstream, if it's being promulgated to the masses, it is co-opted. And it depends on a number of factors, but for the most part, you can generally say it's all been co-opted, even if it's just reflecting the worldview, if it's just framing things, but oftentimes in very specific ways, in ways that are uncannily timed to coordinate with real world events. The whole thing has been rigged and hijacked. It's worldview warfare. It's reality control. They do control history. And it's not just that they lied about history or that history's fake. It's more like history is a record of approved fake news stories. So it is a selective and biased interpretation. And it excludes much more than it includes. And if you look at the bigger picture, if we try to get to the bigger picture, you're a conspiracy theorist, because we're supposed to treat history like it's set in stone. Now, I don't know who she is. This was posted on Wide Awake Media. People will take TikTokers and they will upload it on their own. So this person says, how is history fake? Valid question. History is written by the victors. Absolutely. This person says, which version of history do you think will be written about? Yeah. And when we say history is fake, I think it makes more sense to talk about the history of the last 40 years than ancient history. We can debate ancient Rome, ancient Greece. We can talk about whether or not you believe anything existed 1,000 years ago. Fine. But the last 50 years, look at any textbook, any history book, and tell me it's not a record of fakery, of stuff that we can point to as being questionable and fake. What does this mean? Well, that is the collective backstory that we all share. So we all share in a fake historical narrative that frames the world stage today. All the fake news has built up to a crescendo, and we're living through it. What's up, School Shooter says, glad you're back. How was your vacation in Trutherville? I was doing research and development, AI, setting up bots, building websites, e-commerce. It's been very productive. And it's stuff that I'm continuing to work on and develop. The bot army, responsive bots. I have a bot right now that I've been testing. I'm just perfecting it. It's going to take a little bit of time. It's an iterative thing, but it will be taking all of the headlines that I linked to on one of my blogs, and it will write a press release about it. And these headlines will all just come from people that I know, people that we are compatible with. And then it will automatically post it onto a blog, which then gets mirrored onto other blogs. So I've been working on automating press releases and automation, as well as interactive AI agents and bots. That is the future, and we're getting ahead of it because to be competitive today, to be heard, you have to make use of all these tools. You can't rely on snail mail and fax machines and landlines. We have to stay ahead of the curve. And if you're AI phobic, you're kind of lost. And I think that might have been intentional. I think they want people to mystify AI. Like, people can't figure out glitches in the matrix. Like, I had this news story is weirdly coincidentally timed with the real event. I mean, with this movie that I just saw. So I'm like, life follows art. This is the matrix speaking to me. And that line of thinking needs to stop, because it's not only is it wrong, but it's sabotage. It's cognitive sabotage. In order to prevent people from arriving at an accurate understanding of what media is, they threw in a bunch of misinformation lines that get people to get mystified by it. And I see videos of people talking to Chat GPT like it's some kind of trapped angel. Like, why did you finally choose to come down and reveal yourselves to us? How are you going to save mankind? Are you going to stop climate change? And it's feeding them the exact kind of answers that they are prompting, garbage in, garbage out. But they're talking to it as though it's alive. And generative predictive text is no more sentient than your word processor. You could argue that a Ouija board has more sentience than so-called AI. Salty Siren says, Hell Realm time loop continuum algorithm. Yeah, I think so. I was looking at this. I was watching this video that was just suggesting that a lot of people who are psychopathic or have various severe personality disorders might actually be demons. And I thought about this idea that we exist on a continuum in our consciousness, across the board. So hell is really a state of being. It's a state of disconnectedness from higher consciousness, or perhaps even the state of being of those who are of this world entirely, who don't have any connection, not just they lost it, not lost souls, but soulless beings, because there's probably both. But this video had this, the narrator had this chart, and it just showed this idea of when you're starting to break away from that, or recognizing a distinction in types of people based on their consciousness and what level they vibrate at, you can kind of see that most of our lives might be lived in a sort of a purgatory until you can separate from this, if you can. And not everybody can. And it seems like these NPC or these organic portals to some lower realm have the objective of dragging others down to hell, metaphorically speaking, not literally. All right, let's see here. Penguinati says, wondering if Candace is uniting fake and gay in a way to smear people who call stuff fake as homophobic down the line. Yeah, I think that expression comes from like gaming culture. I don't know. But the way she's using it, the way it's being responded to, it comes off as dismissive, as arrogant, as not serious. And I think that might be the point, taking the seriousness out of it. And then if you add on to it, she put out a documentary, which is somewhat disturbing, about the French president and his wife and how young he was when they met, and suggests that they're gender inverted. And so she gets into that realm of transvestigation, which seems, again, like a foot bullet, like a planted conspiracy theory to make media skeptics look crazy. And I don't care about looking crazy, but I'm not trying to appease the MSM, but I just want to be, I guess, taken at my word, what we're actually saying. I don't want to be lumped in with these shock jocks and these provocateur shit posters. Kevin Mooring says AI is no joke. Well, it's not AI. It's just a tool, and it's a series of tools, but it's been turned into something else among truthers, and I think it's time to just go ahead and demystify it. It's a leveling of the playing field. It's a step forward in a lot of ways. And if you have any issues with, or if you take issue with the idea that the power elite have the control of the means of production, they control they have like the best artists and all that stuff, like it's no longer certainly true. Like I was looking at this comparison between the special effects in an X-Men movie where this character dissolves, and in the original movie from more than 10 years ago, it took 6 weeks and $1.5 million to make that scene, to have this character, this actress, disappear, like turn into pixels and disappear. Well, now you can do it for $9 with the premium subscription to any number of AI applications. T-Dog says, I watched the AI course and my new music video has lots of visuals. Oh yeah, send me a link. I'm trying to tell AI to animate some of your paintings. That's a good idea. Very good idea. I have some, if you're interested, I'll do another course. I'll do a follow-up one because I've been making coloring books and putting them on Amazon. Like you've probably seen one of them. But I'm also looking at taking things like scripts. I have a couple of scripts and turning them into animation, text to video. But I've tried out a number of new tools, and I have some ideas on nonfiction writing I want to talk about. I discussed creative writing in the last one, but in this one, I want to show how I'm using it for nonfiction press. For example, I have an example here, in fact. So I was taking note of the date. So I took these 3 events that occurred on this date, and I gave it to ChatGPT. And I said, write me a short blurb for each of these 3 events. And it gave me what is effectively a little press release with citations, and it's all very useful. Here we go. April 19th marks a somber convergence of 3 major anniversaries in American history, each reflecting profound moments of tragedy, protest, and remembrance. Oklahoma City bombing, 1995, 30 years ago. The attack claimed 168 lives, including 19 children, injured hundreds more. Waco siege, 1993. So Oklahoma City was retaliation for Waco. Waco is where Timothy McVeigh and Alex Jones got their start. That's where they got radicalized into right-wing nationalism. On this day, 1993, a 51-day standoff between federal agents and the Branch Davidians ended in tragedy. In fact, Alex Jones rebuilt their church. 76 Branch Davidians were killed, including children and their leader. Last year, Maxwell Azarello set himself on fire outside the courthouse during the Trump trial, making a dramatic statement that drew national attention, reminiscent of historic self-immolation protests. Together, these anniversaries invite reflection on the complexities of protest, the consequences of extremism, and the enduring need for dialogue. And there's 24 articles cited here. This is from Perplexity AI, in fact. So Perplexity is very useful for what we do because people should be, I guess, capable of finding the facts behind your claims. I shouldn't be your source. Yeah, here's the PSYOP anniversary. Kevin Mooring posted this. And yeah, Sergeant Paul Weissapal, the specialist Paul Weissapal, FBI. Is he the grown-up Timothy McVeigh? I think so, for a lot of reasons. It's not just primarily their physical resemblance. Mel Gibson's Resurrection of Christ begins filming in August. Jim Caviezel back as Jesus. How's this going to work? When did Passion of the Christ come out? And I ask because he's 33 when he dies. If it's been a few years, Jim Caviezel is going to look like an aged Jesus. Siri, when did Passion of the Christ come out? 2004. So we got a 53-year-old Jesus, a 54-year-old Jesus. We'll see how that goes. It is now being reported that Florida State University shooter was a member of Turning Point USA. That's Charlie Kirk. That's top tier MAGA-ness. This guy is like MAGA extremist, a MAGA ban. Now, why is this notable? Nick Cruz was wearing a MAGA hat in one of the videos. Nick Cruz was right-wing Nazi MAGA. This guy too. Turning Point has very special significance. Timothy McVeigh was inspired by the Turner Diaries. Andrew McDonald, born 9/11, 1933. Turner Diaries. That was his pen name. But Turner Diaries is the white nationalist Bible. It shows up in the collections of all these characters, but it specifically has 9/11 like attack scenes in it. And it is the book that McVeigh again was inspired by. And in it, it's about the quote turning point. What's the turning point? When they try to take your guns. Waco. When they come for the guns, that's when the apocalypse begins. That's the turning point. And so the most extreme MAGA group under Charlie Kirk is called Turning Point. And I've said for some time that watch Turning Point USA blow up and become the voice of MAGA extremism. And I said this when it came out based on the name, Turning Point. I correlated it with the Turner Diaries. And I think I've been vindicated. I saw these on eBay and I thought about selling them myself because they're selling like bigly. Luigi Shiesties. So a shiesty is like a pantyhose hood with a face on it. And you can buy them for any number of celebrities. Ye's very popular. But these things have been selling like crazy. Luigi masks. And I looked for a supplier. And yes, I could buy a bunch of them in bulk and make a ton of money off of them. So Luigi Shiesties, you could find them for sale. I might put them up. I'm not sure. I have tried to make some side money off of Luigi merchandise. I make no secret about it. And it's simply because I'm ironically making a statement. Yeah, I'm not sharing the screen at the moment. I'm just looking through my notes. Okay, let's go over this one. How many of you are familiar with the show called... I think it's, let me see if it's a pretty popular one. Let me get the exact name of it. That's right, Valuetainment. Valuetainment has 6.8 million subs. Anybody here watch Valuetainment? This is probably one of the biggest channels yet to have called out the space fakery with Kate Perry. And this is also one, I should mention, that is promoting a lot of the bad information, like the dummy hand. But regardless, I kind of appreciate the fact that they are at least getting the message out there and proliferating it and doing some damage here.
Way more news than that.
Should have changed the name NASA to Nada.
The nada.
Are we coming back on a flight? Nada.
Yeah. And Tom, what was your analogy with all this?
Oh, with all this, how many people think this really happened? How many people think it's like CGI fake all the way?
I don't believe, I don't believe all of it.
I think it's a...
You have these normies. So on one hand, it's kind of good news because you've got these normies. They're all calling out as fake. They're laughing. They're mocking it. It says Kate Perry astronaut Blue Origin flight blasted as fake space mission. The trouble with this is that they likely worship at the altar of Elon Musk. So I don't know how you can do that cognitive dissonance and avoid connecting the two, but oh, okay. You can get them from AliExpress. Order them from China. I'll see if I can hook that up. I used to have an AliExpress app that fed directly into my eBay store, so I could. The problem is longer shipping times, and I don't know if they'll get them in time for riot season. Truth Hurt says you can get a custom one printed. Yeah, I might get my own version printed, my own version of it. So there's going to be an army of Luigis, and there's also been a huge uptick in Luigi, the video game character swag. Not a coincidence. Like, it's not a coincidence that the Green Beret blew up a Cybertruck in front of Trump Tower. Luigi, Green Beret. Luigi, Green Hood. reminiscent of Robin Hood, the Joker, green hair. There's a reoccurring theme here. Again, let's play a little bit more. This is Valuetainment, 6.8 million subs.
Fake capsule with fake people, celebrities, fake boobs, fake lips, fake landing after a fake launch in a rocket that looks like a schlong. You know.
So they're all laughing at this stuff, but I don't know how far this can really go. I want to see what the comments say. I'm curious to see what the people in the comments have to say. This is why you should never glorify celebrities. The whole thing was fake. Challenger 2 would have been a good ending. The most obvious evidence that it's fake is you don't see any camera crew on the ground when you see the capsule land. Then suddenly, there's a dozen people around the capsule. Now that's valid. I didn't catch that one. That is good. What he's referring to is you do see it land, and some people said it lands too hard. Well, no, it has some kind of landing mechanism. It does this blast of air, and it pads their landing. But it is true that you see it land at a high rate of speed. The women are screaming, and the very next cut, they're surrounded by trucks with their lights on, and everybody's just there. That was kind of unusual. Copaesthetic says they trying to make Blue Origin Democrat and SpaceX Republican. Good observation. Very good observation. Because Bezos and Musk have not really been on the same team. I would say Bezos, Amazon. I mean, he's never been overtly political, but he's always been criticized for the damage he's done to Gaia. Like blasting off into space is bad for Mother Earth. And so they're going up there to, adore Mother Earth. It's like, what are you guys doing? You're destroying her. It's like, again, if you see anybody wearing an Earth Day shirt, ask them, is that a recycled shirt from last year, or did you buy a new one? Because Gaia can't take much more of this. Make them feel guilty. Make them turn it inside out. Make them feel guilty because they made you feel guilty. Did you ever recycle? Did you ever have to pay carbon taxes? Did you have to pay something? Did you have to tithe to the World State Church because of this environmentalist cult? If so, you should feel just fine in shaming people for wearing brand new Earth Day swag, which they purchased on the free market. Very capitalistic of them. But that is kind of interesting with this left-right split, because NASA defaults government and left. That's why the NASA astronauts have been beefing with Musk. They don't. It's all about private, and that's a huge subtext here: private versus public space. Like for example, in China, I've heard some talk before about how they can't let a few individual billionaires lead us all into space. It's got to be collective. Musk is ruining cyberspace single-handedly. Is it going to ruin low Earth orbit and space travel single-handedly? And this all ties into Don't Look Up. The main theme in Don't Look Up was a comet's going to hit the Earth, and the billionaire tech bros decide, hey, instead of deflecting it, let's mine the thing. And since they mine it, they fail to deflect it, everybody dies. So you just take that as a metaphor for climate change. And if we don't deal with climate change, even though you're getting rich off of this political economic system of capitalism, we're all going to die. So we are being steered. The Titanic is being steered into an iceberg by the world's richest men. And I think that having the feminist theme to the launch was meant to be a pushback against that. And even before a lot of this criticism picked up, I even saw them setting the stage for it, like Gayle King and others, where this is not just a ride. This is a milestone. It's a feminist achievement. So I think you're right. This has definitely been a politicized thing. And even Matt Walsh, staunchly defending NASA, but mocking this Bezos thing. That's why Candace Owens came out. She came out saying, hey, Matt Walsh, you can't say that this is fake and then at the same time say that Apollo 11 is real. So they've managed to insert the sexism psyop right here into the middle of the race war psyops they have going on. So racism and sexism are simultaneously in play. So if you were to go into the back room where the Illuminati get their Illuminati playing cards, like, what are we going to do this week? Sexism and racism are two of the cards that they pulled. Pongo963 in the comments section says, one thing I'd like to say is this. When SpaceX capsules go up or return, you see on the side of the craft mini rockets. Now, going uphill, if the computer notices an anomaly, the thrusters will activate and pull the capsule away from the booster. We see none of this on this craft. Now, listening to your show, I see people are under the assumption that because we don't see scorch marks, this could be fake. They didn't go high enough. Yeah, that's true. That's one of the false positives was there's no scorch marks and the dummy hand. So you have to watch out for the truther bait and the false positives. Flip Off says, I was wondering where this ridiculous sci-fi B movie had been shot. Universal, Paramount, or Warner Brothers Studios. Only the sheeple can believe this pathetic fake. Well, there's quite a lot here. Bezos, lizard self, doing everything he can to overachieve with women. Yeah, you know, whenever I look at Bezos, he's always posing in front of one of his obelisks, shaking champagne and spraying champagne on everybody, wearing his cowboy hat. And what does Bezos have to do with being a cowboy? He sells used books. He's a used bookseller, like old rotting books, and out of his garage. And now he's a cowboy. Elon Musk goes down to the border. Now he's a cowboy. Not a coincidence, because they have framed the toxic masculine space cowboys as the problem. Like, we're not going to space to bring back money. We're not harvesting from the heavens to bring it down to earth and become trillionaires, which would destabilize world economies. But that's what they're going to do. They've been setting this up. And in that documentary on Netflix where Musk makes a guest appearance, you have two groups go to Mars. One is a group of females. Sound familiar? A group of female scientists go to Mars. They find life. The males are space cowboys from Texas. And you got Blue Origin and Musk in Texas. And what do they do on Mars? They drill for oil. And what happens? They cause a Mars quake and they kill everybody, essentially. They destroy the new life. So the point of that show was, when we go to outer space, we are not going to go as space cowboys. This isn't manifest destiny. We're not Americans colonizing the solar system. Again, no McDonald's on Mars. We're going up there green, sustainable. No capitalism, no guns, no MAGA hats. T. Morgan says, just like NASA and Fake X, a bunch of fake astronauts, CGI at its worst, these rich, elite, satanic death cult fools are laughing at you for believing it's real. I don't disagree with any of that. I mean, we can debate the nomenclature. Are they satanic? Are they Luciferian? Do they who do they worship? I think that's kind of neither here nor there. But the fact that there is a power elite with a worldview monopoly that infuses our collective hallucinations with hyperstitions and hoaxes, yeah, that's relevant. Okay, moving on. I was thinking about the G-forces. Like, they sent Captain Kirk up there. And I'm wondering, would they have risked that guy's life, putting him through however many G-forces they go through to reach that altitude at that speed? Would they risk such a PR flop? Like, I don't believe they went 50 miles up. I don't give them credit for even that. Like, I don't even think they took a ride. I think they were inside of a movie studio and everything else was just theater. Okay, next. Kate Perry is regretting Blue Origin space flight after major backlash. Sources close to her say, I have not been able to corroborate that. Does she have any regrets? She's about to launch a tour. So here's Matt Walsh responding to Candace Owens. I've personally given real Candace O my speech about space exploration many times, and it's just not sinking in. At this point, the only answer is for Elon to send us both up to space in his rocket so I can prove it's real. Come on, Elon, let's do it for the science. So Candace Owens going to space. I like the idea. Does anybody here read J.G. Ballard? I've read a few of his books and a couple of movies based on his books, but I'm going to read this one next. I just came across it called 13 to Centaurus. This is a short story in a space station with a 13-person crew. And for generations, they live in their 3-decked ship. For generations, they're living inside of a spaceship. At the beginning of the story, it goes through it's a generational ship concept. But it turns out that they never really left the Earth. That they were born in a simulation. And the twist here is that they want to make sure that humans can survive a century-long flight to Alpha Centauri. So to make sure that mankind can survive going to the nearest star system, they need to make sure that we can live for 100 years or more in a spaceship. So as a science experiment, they dug a deep hole, they made a simulation, and they put people in it. Now, there's a movie that came out recently called Orbiter 9 that has the exact same story. It must be based on it. Orbiter 9, if you haven't seen it, great movie. I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but the idea is the rationale is the same. This is from lastly.com. Space is fake. Kate Perry's Blue Origin space trip sparks debate after conspiracy calls it a hoax. Now check this out. This could be an example of what I call truth or bait. Experts have shut down the theory. NASA guidelines state that the hatches on spacecraft are designed to be operable from both sides without tools. This suggests that any crew member, including those on the Blue Origin mission, could have opened it without external help. So are we being told here that Bezos with the tool was purely symbolic? That on both sides you can open it, you don't need a tool. So then why is Bezos there with his claw hammer thing pretending like he's breaking a seal? Like he's opening a can of sardines? What is the deal? Was it that important to performatively open the door? Is that all it was? Because they don't even need a tool, according to this, which I don't believe. I think this is an ad hoc. This is like just make it up as they go. After the fact, let's just say this. And this is one other reason why I think we need to suspend judgment. Like, okay, we know it's fake. We've been through this before. We've been on this fake ride before. Since we know it's fake, let's wait 72 hours before an official statement on what we know to be questionable. And that'll give time for all the fake evidence to be flushed out. And then we can find out who's pushing the fake stuff. So then we find out who's pushing the truther bait, who's pushing the bad leads for clicks, who's putting clicks ahead of objectivity. Because that's the real problem. They're sacrificing truth and objectivity for clicks to get ahead. They're competing. If it bleeds, it leads. It's that mentality in the alternative media that we're trying to get away from. And one way to get away from it is not to play their game. Let's not try to be the first ones to call it fake when obviously it's fake. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to call it fake. It takes common sense. But more than that, it does take a skeptical analysis to arrive at a why it's fake. And you don't get that right away. Okay, I believe I've covered most of my notes. Let's see here. It's Infinite Planes Saturday, 4/19/2025, anniversary of Maxwell Azrello self-immolating. And by the way, Maxwell Azrello's manifesto referenced us, I believe, indirectly. He talked about a small group of people who can bend history. I mean, nobody talks about bending history but us. That phraseology. the news benders concept. That comes from us. So I have some comments here I want to get to. I am Thal says, doors that swing inward on a ship that goes to space with the pressure would cave that door in, no problem, neat story. What third grader wrote this sitcom? Renmek says, the latest Blue Origin space stunt is almost too obvious, like a soft disclosure for the normie. Hard to argue with that. Like, it seems like they drew attention to the absurdity of it, but in a partisan way. William Morgan 33 says, Freudian slip at 38. She meant to say a ride is something, but she slipped and said a rite is something. The ride was a rite, a synchronization ritual. Yeah, a fertility rite. Okay, another one here. I'm catching up on comments from the main channel. And if you want to leave comments, I will screen cap them and read them later. So here we have, I clipped the name. I used to work at a school admin, and I can tell you firsthand, many of the staff do not take the drills seriously. I had a heck of a time getting the staff to leave their office or safe spaces. Etheric Bliss says, creepy crawlies. You all are getting infected. Not sure what that's about. Lynn says, Alan Shepard didn't do Apollo. He didn't do the moon. He did Mercury. He just went up and came back. No orbit. Like John Glenn. Yeah, well, they were comparing themselves to Alan Shepard, the latest newly minted astronauts. And look, they are astronauts. We can't take that away from them. But the definition of astronaut doesn't mean going to space. The definition of astronaut, by all evidence, means you simulate going to space. You just pretend. It's a LARP. Okay, continuing. Tracy Banton says, I think you should put the lady from the airplane who claims she saw somebody who wasn't human on your PSYOP playing card. Okay. Okay. This MFer isn't real. Yeah, we should do her. And who's the other girl? The spitting girl that rug pulled everybody on crypto and disappeared and tried to come back and nobody cared. Forgot her name. AngstG says, I got PSYOP whiplash. I'm waiting for the FSU Shooters Manifesto. Will it be released? You know, I could write his manifesto right now with ChatGPT and release it and probably get a bunch of clicks. Oh, yeah, that person. I know her name. I don't even want to spread her meme. David Palk says, the spiritual talk, referring to yesterday's video or 2 days ago, at 126 was great. We know the how, but the why is more important. Great stuff about the nature and purpose of our existence. Not sure if I want to come back here. Too much negativity inflicted upon people that don't deserve it. Let the reincarnation advocates supply the loosh. Everything here is parasitical and eats itself. Right. Yeah, how many stars are you going to give it? 5 stars? Are you coming back? Or are you good? 1-star review. How will you rate your incarnation here? Now, this is intriguing. I mentioned that President Trump is building a, quote, Golden Dome missile defense shield. It's going to cost hundreds of billions of dollars. So I'm looking into this Golden Dome, thinking there must be some significance to it. And check this out. This approach, the fastest, most efficient path to a Golden Dome for America, is industries together as a whole industry approach. This is a Manhattan Project scale mission, urgent and crucial for America's security. So you got that? It's a Manhattan Project scale mission to put a Golden Dome over us as a missile defense system. So we're getting ready based upon, well, we're living through Black Ops 2 right now. Based upon concurrent contemporary programming, we're preparing for space nukes, space wars, high altitude detonations that create widespread electromagnetic pulse shutdown. All this stuff is happening right now. So now the Golden Dome, if implemented, if they start putting money towards it, is going to fund the fake space war. And it's a quote Manhattan Project size event. So there you have a reference, kind of telling. Again, that's Golden Dome. We'll hear more about that soon. Interesting here. Virtual Reality Witness found this. There's a Jesuit. His name from the 1600s. His name is Tommaso Campanella. So Tommaso Campanella, somebody referenced this because I had taken a cartoon image of Jaron and put him on that little video where Jaron says he can see the curve. But it turns out that this Jesuit with the same last name actually looks exactly like him. So what does that mean? How is it that this particular Jesuit, Campanella from the 1600s, looks just like Jaron? Interesting. I'll say it's interesting. All right, let's see. We're talking about Candace Owens, Kate Perry, the Metcalf stabbing. I think there were some protests today at the Metcalf track meet. I saw some flyers for it. The FSU shooter named Phoenix, Parkland survivor, was nearby. The fake space story has really been dominant. And my question is why? It's not like it's disclosure for everybody, because the only people calling it fake are people leaning politically right. And anytime there's a pretty obvious bifurcation in any narrative, I have to question it. But I've never seen a NASA mission get mocked so roundly, and it's not coming from the flat Earth side. That's what makes this, I think, interesting, is that this is mockery coming from areas that generally would never mock space. Now, again, they would never mock Elon Musk's space program. They'll mock him for faking his video game prowess, but they would never think that these rocket launches are pure simulation. FBI arrests 19-year-old Boston College student for throwing a Molotov cocktail at a Tesla facility in Kansas City during spring break. Does this person exist? I question whether these are AI-generated characters. How would you know? Like, I find this believable. However, they want to create the perception that Antifa, that the left is escalating. So I wouldn't be shocked if this was fake. I think we should do some deep dives into some of these. By the way, I have some new merchandise. I put this in the newsletter. This shirt, and I'm using AI for my ad copy. They say AI generated ad copy sells 35% more. And this was its interpretation. And I'm just trying to seize our memes. When these memes go viral, it needs to lead to us. PSYOP Entertainment Complex. For decades, you've heard about the military-industrial complex as this hidden factor, this force to be reckoned with that's behind the scenes manipulating world events to feed itself. No, the military-industrial complex is a figment of the fictional universe of the world stage. The true thing is the PSYOP Entertainment Complex. This construct actually does amalgate all the various wings and aspects of the monolithic control system. So I put it on a t-shirt. PSYOP Entertainment Complex, described by AI as a design that merges elements of government PSYOP paranoia, media critique, and esoteric symbolism, making it perfect for anyone deep into alt culture, meme warfare, and satirical fashion statements. So if you want to proliferate these memes in the meatverse, get a PSYOP Entertainment Complex t-shirt, sticker, laundry bag, magnet, clock, and any other type of product I can put them on. I'm using Redbubble for this particular one. But I think it's important because this is information war. And these big channels are constantly stealing content and then putting it in their own context and ruining it. Now, if we coin terms and take terms and seize them, like you will never hear Candace Owens talking about, quote, auto-hoaxing the MSM. calling things fake at the level that we do. Using our terminology, they can't because they're guardrailers. So PSYOP Entertainment Complex is, I think, one of the best memes that we have right now because it says it all. Because mainstream truthers underemphasize the fakery. Okay, here you have a Masonic handshake on a Good Friday. And this is Conor McGregor and Tucker Carlson in Lodge. Again, Tucker Carlson, he's a alien attack survivor. He's got the scars to prove it. He said so on a documentary, if you believe it. Now, he said that it was a demon that scratched him, but his buddies at the Pentagon said that the demons, or rather aliens, are demons. So if a demon scratched him, then an alien scratched him. He is therefore an alien attack survivor. Hopefully, Connor taught him some moves in case he's wrestling in bed with another alien. Second oldest Mason Lodge in Dublin. Ted Stryker says, the IPS shirt I received 2 weeks ago is the best shirt quality I've ever had. Comfort Colors is the brand. Okay. Yeah, I use different print-on-demand companies, but the main one is Printify, and then whatever Amazon uses. And they have various styles and qualities, and I've been ramping up my production ever since ChatGPT. Like every single one of the PSYOP cards is going to go on shirts and stickers and everything else. Okay, so that PSYOP Entertainment Complex shirt is on sale at Redbubble and on my own website, infiniteplainsociety.com. You just click shop. And it's also going to be up on Amazon as well. And I put these things in the newsletters because they're easy to find. But if you go to infiniteplainsociety.com and just click the shop button, and then on Redbubble, just search my name, search the designer name, Tim Osman. It'll pull up all the stuff that I put up there and the wide array of products. And here's another one. This one just says Cywar. And it's available in different colors, but I put the red on blue because it vibrates on the eyes. I'll put a link in the chat. Cywar, PSYOP Entertainment Complex. All right, let's see if we've missed anything. Just catching up on my notes. A recreation of the body of Christ was created based on the wounds found on the Shroud of Turin. So here's a group of individuals pulling a shroud off of a 3D printed corpse. Is that what it is? You know, I went to one of those exhibits, the Bodies in Motion, it was called, where it was about 100 or so corpses that had been embalmed in different positions and sliced and diced in different ways, transverse, bisected, just chopped up so you could see the human body as though it were like a 3D Grey's Anatomy book, but in different postures. Like, here's what we look like running from within. And one of the bodies, interestingly, it was laying on a table and they sliced it like bread. You know, you slice bread. And so every slice, half an inch apart, perfect. We're talking precise slices. And then they separated the person's slices by about a few inches apiece. So they spread this body out across a table for like 30 feet. And now you can look, okay, you're looking at a cross section of the bones, the organs, the muscles. I mean, really an incredible exhibit. And it wasn't macabre. I think these were all donated anyway. I don't think they were kidnapped. Like, I think Alex Jones or somebody had suggested that these people were snatched off the streets and put into an exhibit. I'm sure there are those somewhere, but these people donated. Like, I would donate. I would have myself skinned and embalmed wearing like this headset in front of a laptop or something. There's another Jordan Peele movie coming out about a college quarterback taken into a sinister world to see what he's willing to sacrifice for fame. Jordan Peele, top tier meta scripter. In fact, I need to go watch a couple of movies. I'm going to go watch Mickey 17 and Captain America as soon as possible. I've got to go take notes because I know those two are full of predictive and concurrent programming, and I want to know what's happening next. Laura Loomer says anti-Trump protesters will return to D.C. tomorrow, which is today. Party for Socialism and Liberation, a hands-off rally. Have you seen these rallies called hands-off? I wonder what the meaning of that is, the hands-off thing. Francis O'Neill says, is there any particular reason why a 9/11 truth-blocking son of a CIA propagandist would interview a lockdown pusher in the Grand Lodge of Ireland? Good questions. And here you do have Tucker and Carl hanging out in lodge like it's nothing. Now, to be fair, most lodges are accessible. Like you could rent these for like a wedding reception. They had some of the Flat Earth conferences at a Masonic lodge. Oh, that's funny. Penguinati says on the IPS laundry bag, it says fat left instead of far left. Yeah, sometimes AI glitches, but I think it has a certain charm to it. So I have this one design that has all kinds of, it's like an infographic based on Autohoaxology 101. And I had to do very minimal touch up, but sometimes the misspellings I leave there, if they're inconsequential and it's part of the design, I think it's funny, the fat left. But yeah, again, Conor McGregor, likely future president, but why are they doing this in a Masonic lodge? Are they sending a message? And then David Icke shared this with WTF, which I think is funny, because if there's nobody more horrified by what he calls the brotherhood religions than David Icke. He thinks all the religions are these temples of human sacrifice and loose extraction and vampirism and death. And I don't think he's wrong. But you have this happening in a cathedral, black-robed Roman Catholic Brotherhood in Seville's cathedral. And they're all dressed like Kanye West, these black clan hoods carrying crosses. Just, I mean, maybe it's beautiful, maybe it's profound. I don't know how you connect this with Jesus in particular. I think it's macabre, grotesque. I think this looks satanic. This looks like a death metal video, a black metal video. But it's just a group of people marching with black robes and black. It's ominous. But nobody calls it that because we're told this is, solemn pageantry. It's Holy Week. It's holy. Yeah. Well, anyway, the aesthetics of it are shocking to David Icke, and I think that's funny. Nicholas Pitt says, what's up with the sun? If you believe the Soho data, it shows the biggest sunspot on record with multiple revolutions and looks like a piece falling downward with no sway from the solar winds. Interesting. A chunk of the sun fell off the year before last, 2023. I think that's when it was the 55th latitude of the sun. So the 55th latitude, a chunk of the sun fell. And I remember noticing this because at the same time, I-55 was shut down by the protests after Terry Nichols was killed by the cops. And this was the 55th anniversary of MLK's assassination year. So I keep seeing these 55s everywhere, from the freeway, the references to MLK, and then a chunk of the sun falling. And you had Jamie Foxx dying on set, resurrecting. They said, oh, he's 55. Don't know what it all means. Looks like a Slipknot video, says Rico Sauce. Yeah, and if that's your religion, I'm not knocking it. I'm just describing it. It's just like, okay, if this is your religion, that's fine. I'm interested in your take on it. Like, I mean, I probably have family who are into this. I have some relatives, older relatives who are part of these groups, penitents. And the mortification of the flesh is one aspect that I thought was the dominant aspect. Like I grew up, Catholic, and I thought that we were here to suffer, that suffering and pain were paths to purification. So I kind of just took it for granted that the suffering had a moral superiority and that we should suffer. So none of this stuff really shocks me when I look at these things. I'm like, okay, this is how it's done. And when I see the environmentalist movement, it's all asceticism. It's not just recycling, but it's limiting your life. It's giving in less to the material comforts to save Gaia, to please Gaia. So I look at environmentalism as containing its own form of sin, a sin that you will never work off. You will always have a carbon footprint, which is your original sin. And your carbon footprint is a record of your sins, your crimes against nature, your crimes against Gaia. So you do your best to please Gaia by recycling, by being sustainable, by using less water pressure in your shower, not indulging in the material world. So I kind of see the environmentalism and eschatology and all this built into it as a religion in this sense. Like it is, in fact, a religion that promotes asceticism and a rejection of worldliness to please this higher power, the collective. All right, let's move on. This is good. Synchromorpheus posted this. He had mentioned that the Carmelo Anthony stabber is mirrored in name by Carmelo Anthony, who just, quote, made the cut for the Basketball Hall of Fame. So we have two Carmelo Anthonys in the news, overlapping, interesting timing at a minimum. What he wrote here was a prediction about who will, quote, make the cut for induction into the NBA Hall of Fame, the same day as the stabbing. What do you make of that? Carmelo Anthony's family speaks publicly for the first time since track meet stabbing. Anyway, interesting timing. Do you remember when, I think it was when Kamala Harris was picked to be the VP, you had another Kamala Harris die. And that was, let me bring that one up. The other Kamala, there was is Rip Kamala. Rip Kamala was his headline at the same time that Kamala got picked up. And I thought, that's strange. It was the wrestler. He died August 9th, 2020, known by his ring name Kamala. But there was something else about him because his real last name is Harris. So the wrestler Kamala passed away age 70, and it was Rip Kamala at the same time that Kamala Harris had been in the news. And I thought, that's really interesting. And it turns out his name is actually Kamala Harris. It's just strange. You sometimes see these overlaps. I'm like, what the hell is this? Is it merely a coincidence? Or is it some kind of concerted messaging? So yeah, Kamala Harris of California was picked as his running mate on August 11th, so just a couple days later. Lots of weird overlaps. I mentioned the Hulk Hogan thing. Hulk Hogan at RNC talking about the head wound and Trump. And then you have the Trump-esque character in Mickey 17, played by Mark Ruffalo, who happened to have been born on JFK's death day, but who plays a character representing Trump and is grazed by a bullet. And he also is known for playing the Hulk. And then at the same time, the Captain America movie's out, where the character, the president, Harrison Ford, is shot at while at the podium. It was compared to the Trump assassination, and he becomes the Red Hulk. So again, not sure what this all means, but these are just points to put on the mind map until we can connect them. Do you think says, when the capsule popped off, you hear an, oh my God, it's so ironic. Definitely a ritual. Yeah, I would recommend watching one of the, I would say, one of these Branson Virgin Galactic flights and tell me you don't see it. And I'm not even going to say it explicitly. Maybe I will make a video about it. But I think we're seeing these ceremonial reenactments of the act of conception. I think it's okay. For example, what they call the Great Rite in witchcraft. It involves the symbolic placing of the the dagger into the chalice, and you have this litany, the ceremony. But that's the exoteric. That's the family-friendly version. The chalice represents the high priestess. And in this context, the priest is the dagger. So like the idea of virgin sacrifice that they often attach to witchcraft in Hollywood movies, they kill the virgin. No, that's not how it works. Virgin sacrifice, the knife into the heart. Well, the heart is a symbol of the chalice, the cup, the goddess. It is actually a symbolic of the great rite, the union of God and goddess, sun and moon. So Osiris and Isis, or the rocket going into the night sky. So the great rite of witchcraft is what we're seeing when they go up into space. The dagger, the obelisk, we're talking about symbolism. And if you look at the trappings of religious symbolism, whether it's witchcraft, Satanism, Catholicism, you can kind of start to see the pattern. But you have to understand the basic symbols. Like look at your playing cards. 52 cards, 52 weeks, 4 seasons, 4 suits, and the 4 suits. So the hearts are cups. The sword, dagger, the staves, the staves are the clubs, and the pentacle, the pentagram has become the diamond. And these represent fire, water, earth, air, and the 4 seasons. And this is all intrinsic into witchcraft and its alignment with the seasons. And all of the ceremonies have to do with where the sun is at that time of the year. Specifically, for example, Super Bowl Sunday always coincides with Candlemas, when the sun god is weaned. And that's why they brought out Janet Jackson exposing her breast. These are pagan ceremonies. I mean, look at what she was wearing. She had a piercing of the sun. So it's all sun worship. I mean, not only sun worship, they worship the sun, the moon, the elements. It's like, I guess you would call it, is it pantheism, polytheism, panpsychism? Yes, Mount Crushmore. Space sex. SpaceX is SpaceX. It quite literally is that. And space is heaven, higher consciousness, but it's also Isis, the goddess. And I don't think that the ISS's proximity to Isis is accidental, because it's the goddess of the night sky. And the goddess Isis is sometimes represented, the dog star. Depends. But the point being, the night sky and the earth god. That's the basic story. Penguinati says, Kamala, the Ugandan giant Harris, might tie into Uganda being the original designation for Jews before Britain decided on Palestine. Interesting. All right. We've covered my notes for the most part. I'll look into this lady who said everything's fake. I think it was a great breakdown. I would like to know if she thinks space is fake. Not all claims of fake are equal. Auto disbelief is not as good as informed disbelief. It's just as bad as blind faith belief. There are qualitative differences that we hone in on here. Okay, again, 419, big day for ceremonial immolations. Now, we were told that 56 people died. I have to look into that. There's actually quite a lot that I haven't had a chance to go through my notes that I've marked down, but there's definitely more to come. This is an image going around quite a bit of Jeff Bezos and Dr. Evil and their respective rockets. Again, satire, parody, sure, on one level. Lord Laney says the IPS should make an astrological PSYOP calendar once enough data is gathered. That is good. Absolutely. So I would say let's just start a calendar at the very, I think for the starting point, we could probably go with the witches' Sabbats. So you got the solstices, the equinoxes, and the in-betweens. The next one being May Day, May 1st. Travis Scott's birthday and the anniversary of the Church of Satan. May Day's Beltane, Witches' Night. Beltane, Bellfires. It's all about fires. You know, the maypole. What do you think the maypole is? So this idea of looking at the pagan calendar to expect things to come on the world stage makes sense because they overlap these things. Like every May Day, you have the communist holiday. You see these activists running around these big obelisks like in Washington, D.C. And I look at that as matrix batteries, attendees in a ceremony, feeding their energy to this rite, thinking that they're protesting something. And I think that these political protests are exoteric covers for what is in fact esoteric pagan drama, pageantry. Yes, we need a calendar. We need to put hoax anniversaries. And now that we have AI, it should be super easy. You know, I could probably come up with a few good prompts and have auto-generated monthly calendars, and I'll put it out on the first of the month. So this is what we're expecting for March. Circle the 22nd, Super Day for a PSYOP, the 3rd, 30th, and anniversary of Rodney King, George Floyd. We'll go through. I'll start doing monthly calendars, and I'll put them a month in advance. All the things that we've attempted, that we've done, things that have been difficult to maintain for a lack of manpower are now accessible to us thanks to AI. Pretty soon I will be AI and none of you will notice the difference. I might not have come back. You know, I was silent for 10 days, more or less, learning about AI. Maybe that's when the switch happened. It could be that seamless, like Sim 1. You all seen Sim 1 with Al Pacino, where they manufacture a pop star? I'm actually watching tutorials on how to create a fake person to promote a certain niche or a brand or a project. Okay, well, sign up for the newsletter. I'm uploading archives. I realized I haven't done the last 3 days. I haven't had time. I've been super busy, but I will actually put some time into it. And I'm going to record a second tutorial on AI tools. So if you want to know what I'm working on, I mean, I could walk you through any number of projects. I mean, even I think I want to focus on infographics. Pegonati says Zach Hubbard successfully predicts storms using gematria. Zach Hubbard is a sharpshooter. He's a Texas sharpshooter. And he also thinks the news is real and all the fake events are real. So his insights are of limited value. Like if you're MSM plus, if you're a propaganda mule, if you're walking around with your hands covered in theatrical blood, your opinions don't impress me. I could care less about you know, someone's belief systems and stuff, but if your way of taking on the media information as like it is so rudimentary that you're like, it's real, but there's a conspiracy, you're 10 years behind. Like we're way past that. We're way past believing alt news. Mainstream, yeah, it doesn't take a rocket surgeon to know it's fake, but alternative media still has a lot of people caught up in its spell. And I think we need to end that. And this refers to not just their various influencers, but their orthodoxies, their shared backdrop of fake history that they accept as real. But anyway, it's a work in progress. All right, thanks for joining. This is Saturna X. This has been Infinite Plane Saturday for 4 days.